So if you moved abroad or married an Italian, you probably thought dual citizenship meant skipping visa queues and living between two summers. Instead, there is a decent chance that South Africa quietly dropped you as a citizen without even telling you. You see, for years, South Africans who took up another nationality automatically lost their citizenship unless they had first asked Home Affairs for permission. Now, many never knew that this rule existed, and they found out only much later when applying for a passport or trying to vote or attempting to move back home. Now, that quiet trapdoor finally blew open last year after the Constitutional Court ruled the law, you guessed it, unconstitutional. You see, the judges ruled that automatically stripping someone of their citizenship flatly contradicted the Constitution, which says that no South African can be deprived of it. Now, the problem wasn't just technical. Losing citizenship meant losing basic rights, from voting to simply living in the country. But because a court ruling doesn't magically fix admin systems, Home Affairs had to work out how to restore citizenship records for thousands of expats scattered around the world without dragging them into queues or paperwork purgatory. And so that's why the department rolled out an online citizenship reinstatement portal late last year, letting people check their status remotely. And it worked, but slowly. You see, applications took weeks and many were handled manually. Now, the final phase of this portal has gone live, and this is where the fix actually lands. Instead of waiting weeks for someone to manually trawl through files, affected South Africans can now verify their citizenship in real time using biometric checks online. And in many cases, it takes as little as an hour. Your status flips back to citizen, and suddenly you're eligible for a green Mamba passport again. And so if that ludicrous trapdoor ever caught you out, consider it closed. You're still South African, welcome back. You've been missed. So while that's one essential system finally working, there is another flying under the radar. FlySafair isn't just South Africa's biggest domestic airline anymore. It's the backbone of local travel. When schedules hold, the country moves. When they don't, everything from business meetings to family funerals backs up fast. And so that's why the airline's planned acquisition by infrastructure investor Harith General Partners matters less as a corporate headline and more as a test of how solid South Africa's flying system really is. So over the past few years, FlySafair has quietly filled the gaps left behind as rivals collapsed and planes disappeared from the sky, metaphorically speaking. But its dominance hasn't been frictionless. You see, the company has faced ongoing regulatory pressure over its ownership structure, as well as a couple staff strikes last year. And so this proposed takeover is meant to settle the ownership question without disturbing operations. Same management, same low-cost model, just with continuity very clearly the goal. And so that's the tension here. You see, ownership changes have a habit of unsettling staff and throwing planning into flux. And South Africa's aviation system doesn't have much room for slack. And so while growth plans and expansion talks sound exciting, they're not the point here. Analysts point out that the real priority is keeping the airline steady, predictable, and on time. Because for a system this essential, reliability matters more than ambition. So while some businesses are being tested on reliability, others are still proving they can recover at all. This wasn't how Pick n Pay's turnaround was meant to look. You see, the retailer is now heading for a loss of at least 490 million rand this year. And the market hasn't exactly loved it. You see, it's worse than management had previously guided, and on paper, it looks like a setback in a recovery that was supposed to be building momentum. But a bigger loss on its own still doesn't answer the real question here. Is the business broken or just not fixed yet? Now, what went wrong appears to be mostly timing and pressure. You see, trading slowed late in the year, November was weak, Black Friday disappointed, and dozens of these underperforming stores were deliberately converted or closed. Now, that hurts sales in the short term. But beneath the headline loss, there are signs of life. Sales at company-owned supermarkets are growing, online shopping through Pick n Pay's apps is surging, and price increases stayed below food inflation, suggesting that it hasn't been simply pushing higher costs onto shoppers. So one of the core issues here is that this recovery isn't happening evenly. You see, Boxer, the value chain that Pick n Pay still largely owns, is growing much faster, a clear signal of where stretched consumers are now spending. And so, no, that doesn't rule out a recovery at the core Pick n Pay brand, but it does suggest that, in the very least, this turnaround is taking longer than expected. And so, look, this business isn't written off, but it hasn't exactly earned a clean bill of health either. And before we cruise on to our bagel bite of the day, here's a couple other headlines worth knowing. For starters, rhino poaching dropped 16% nationwide in 2025. But the headline masks a split reality. You see, losses in Kruger nearly doubled, while Shishlui Umfolozi slashed killings after dehorning and tighter enforcement. Airports Company South Africa will spend 21.7 billion rand over 5 years upgrading major hubs, including a new runway and domestic arrivals terminal in Cape Town and expanded cargo facilities at OR Tambo. This move follows record holiday traffic but aims to restore pre-pandemic capacity. And the Constitutional Court has postponed arguments over President Ramaphosa's signing of the NHI Act, choosing first to hear challenges to Parliament's public participation process. Now, if that challenge succeeds, the case against the President's assent could fall away entirely. And on to our bagel bite of the day, but first, just a side note, if you're enjoying the show, please can I ask that you like and subscribe. It helps to keep the lights on. Anyways, with that out the way, let's see what you got. The question is, which physicist proposed the concept of black holes before they were even observed? Was it A, Stephen Hawking, B, Carl Schwarzschild, or C, Roger Penrose? We'll give you the answer at the end of the show. So we've spoken before about how the enforcement of school uniforms meant to create equality have quite controversially become one of the most expensive barriers to education. I mean, by January, many parents are choosing between school uniforms and groceries. And so that's why these laybars still exist. A laybar lets you lock in essentials like school uniforms and shoes and then pay them off in small chunks over time, interest-free. So this week, that reality popped up again after a social media post showing someone paying off school uniform laybars started circulating online, and the response was immediate. People started doing the same at pep stores, sometimes settling the full amounts, sometimes just contributing what they could. So look, the idea of doing this isn't exactly new, but what caught a lot of people off guard is how simple the system has become. You see, PEP lets anyone contribute towards an existing laybar, even online, without going through some charity or campaign. And yes, the fact that this is necessary at all raises bigger questions about how sustainable back-to-school costs have become. Still though, there's something quietly reassuring in all of this, a reminder that South Africans, even when money is tight, still find ways to look out for one another. And as for that bagel bite, the answer is Carl Schwarzschild, who worked out the math of black holes all the way back in 1916, long before anyone had the faintest hope of actually seeing one. Theory came first and observation did follow almost a century later. And hey, if this stuff grabs you, Brian Cox has an incredible hour-long explanation of black holes that makes the whole thing feel both mind-bending and strangely intuitive. I've linked it in the description below if you are watching on YouTube. It is absolutely worth your time. And my friends, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for our final daily bagel show of the work week. It is going to be a goodie. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day further. Be kind to one another, and we'll catch you all then. God bless.